Johnny Sack didn't lose his mind because of Ralph's joke. He lost it because suburbia broke him first. Few television details are as quietly revealing as the disappearing horizon behind Johnny Sack's New Jersey mansion. When the character first steps onto his back deck, the view stretches endlessly. Trees, open fields, even a passing farmer on a tractor. It's the perfect symbol of early prosperity, the illusion of endless room to expand. But as the seasons roll on, the landscape tightens. Houses multiply like suburban metastases, and what was once pastoral serenity becomes boxed-in domestic confinement. Johnny's empire, both literal and metaphorical, shrinks before our eyes. This slow suffocation of space mirrors the experience of anyone who's ever been the first buyer in a gleaming new subdivision. At first, the yard feels vast, untouched, even idyllic. But give it a few years, once the final cul-de-sac is paved and the last identical McMansion erected, and that sprawling backyard feels roughly the size of a welcome mat. The once open horizon is now a wall of vinyl siding. The Sopranos, as always, captures the quiet indignity of American upward mobility. Every step higher brings a smaller patch of sky. It's no coincidence that the final season's bleak domestic scenes echo this suburban claustrophobia. Tony himself references it in his visit to Janice, standing on the same sort of once grand, now suffocating property. What was once all woods becomes a symbol of eroded identity. Nature bulldozed to make room for two-car garages and inflatable holiday decor. And then, of course, there's the matter of Johnny Sack himself, perched like a king in his dwindling pasture, cigarette in hand. One scene captures him sitting alone in the middle of his backyard, a vast and unnecessary ashtray balanced on his knee. He takes a drag, ashes neatly, then rises, walks 10 steps, and flicks the butt directly into the grass. Civilization distilled. The pretense of refinement, followed immediately by casual destruction. It's an oddly familiar ritual, half politeness, half arson. Many grandfathers of a certain era treated their lawns this way, as though nicotine ash were a patriotic fertilizer. A backyard brush fire was simply part of the cycle of life. That absurd detail, the ashtray in a field, the burning cigarette tossed into the grass, says more about Johnny Sack than any mob confession could. His entire persona is a balancing act between decorum and decay. A man obsessed with appearances, with dignity, with keeping up the illusion of class, all while rotting beneath the surface. His backyard, like his psyche, becomes smaller and more combustible over time. This visual metaphor extends neatly into the evolution, or rather corrosion, of Johnny's character. In the first 2 seasons, he's almost disarmingly pleasant, a calm, urbane underboss who smiles, flatters, and moves effortlessly between the rival families. He's courteous to soldiers, cordial with Tony, and seemingly immune to the pettiness infecting the rest of his circle. Then, something shifts. By the time Ralph cracks a tasteless joke about Ginny Sack's weight, the transformation is complete. The friendly consigliere hardens into a tyrant, vindictive, humorless, perpetually offended. The man who once navigated the DeMeo family's politics with charm now treats every interaction as an insult, every disagreement as treason. Why the drastic change? One explanation lies in the obvious: power. As Silvio once noted, some men are born to be number 2, but collapse under the weight of being number 1. Johnny Sack exemplifies this fatal promotion. The moment he ascends, his graciousness curdles into paranoia. Every decision becomes a crisis, every rival a threat. Power isolates him, stripping away the camaraderie that once defined him. The new boss doesn't just lose friends, he loses perspective. What was once a shared game becomes a solitary burden. Ambition also exacts its price. The Esplanade money rolls in, the greed fattens, the wife remains immovable, literally and symbolically. The suburban dream that was supposed to signify arrival becomes a gilded cage. He is hemmed in by his property, his status, his own brittle pride. The same man who once laughed at Tony's jokes now can't tolerate a whisper about his wife's weight. The landscape closes in. The mind follows suit. Of course, one can also credit or blame David Chase for the metamorphosis. The show's creator understood that static characters are dead characters. Johnny Sack's descent from gracious diplomat to embittered autocrat isn't a continuity error, it's dramaturgy. A pleasant mobster might be realistic, but he's dramatically useless. By giving Sack his fatal vanity, Chase transformed him into something more compelling. A man consumed by the appearance of respectability, the kind of man who carries an ashtray into a pasture. That veneer of civility is always the first casualty in The Sopranos. Beneath the tailored suits and manicured lawns, every character is one insult away from combustion. Johnny Sack merely embodies the process more elegantly than most. His backyard burns slower, but it burns all the same. Even geography conspires to underline his absurdity. When Tony bolts from the FBI raid at Sack's house, viewers familiar with North Caldwell geography can chart his improbable escape. The two homes, 31 Fox Run and 14 Aspen Drive, are a mere 1.8 miles apart. At nearly 300 pounds, Tony supposedly sprints the distance through backyards, farms, and woods like a varsity athlete, pursued by divine retribution. In reality, anyone seen walking in North Caldwell without a golden retriever would draw suspicion. The town does not tolerate pedestrians. Yet, somehow, Tony barrels through the dark like a suburban Sasquatch, his adrenaline proving mightier than topography. That flight, too, reflects the show's genius for layering metaphor atop mundane logistics. Tony's panicked run through a maze of luxury homes and wooded lots encapsulates the American mobster's paradox, the constant need to flee, even when you own the neighborhood. And so, the story of Johnny Sack's backyard becomes a miniature of The Sopranos itself, a meditation on the suffocating nature of success. The more you build, the less room you have. The wider the house, the narrower the life inside it. Johnny's shrinking yard, his extinguished cigarette, his slow moral implosion, all serve as markers of a civilization obsessed with appearances and allergic to authenticity. In the end, he becomes what every suburban king eventually becomes: a man standing alone in his manicured field, pretending he still owns the view.